Hey, peace and power, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Conscious Kingdom Literary Podcast, hashtag freedom. This is the first official episode. Hey, it's lit. I just again want to say thank you for tuning in. If you are listening, I greatly appreciate the support. Like I said in the intro, this is something that I've always dreamed of. I'm a huge podcast listener, but no one was really feeding my soul. They were just feeding me entertainment. So, being the conundrum that I am, I wanted to combine both of the things that I love: literacy, uplifting my people, evolving and becoming a better me, plus all of the entertainment and gossip and all the things that just thrive our culture. Just to give you an idea of what this will be, I'm always going to start off with some music because I love hip hop. I love music. So I'm always going to have a tune or two in the beginning. We'll go into what's poppin', some hot topics. I'm going to dive into black magic, where I highlight a dope black person that did something dope during the week. Maybe two or three, because we be out here killing it. And I'll always dive into the meme of the week because y'all know the internet is undefeated. So we always going to talk about the meme or the gif of the week and must watch TV for the week. And then we'll always finish off reading some chapters, building on what we read, and end it off with lyrics to live by. Because again, I'm a true lover of music, so music is what keeps me going. The first few weeks, we will be reading Black Privilege by none other than Charlamagne The God. And I chose this because I love the tagline that comes with it. Black Privilege. Opportunity comes to those who create it. And creating this podcast is me creating the opportunity that I didn't see anywhere else. So always keep in mind, readers are leaders and leaders are readers. So I'm going to always include little tidbits in between what I'm reading. So I'm going to interject, and I always try to keep it pushing. So y'all bear with me. I am going to go live sometimes. I couldn't go live today because, listen, life is real, okay? So just tune in, vibe with me right here on the YouTube and on the SoundCloud, and I'll schedule a time next week so we can go live so y'all can actually interact with me and talk. So let's dive right into what's poppin' for the week. Of course, everyone was talking about what happened in Vegas. It is very unfortunate, you know, with the number of people who experienced that while just trying to go to a concert. Me and my homegirl Nia were just in Philly, literally doing the same thing at a festival, at a concert, lit, having a great time. And at any given moment, that could turn. So my heart definitely goes out to those people who, had to mourn the loss of their family. My condolences to them, of course. And those who are injured, those who just are traumatized by the entire situation. It's fucked up. But it's a direct reflection of what our society looks like and what we deal with gun control and, any old body being able to purchase assault rifles. It just got released that the man, and I won't even say his name and give him no more shine. He's not about to get a hashtag share off of me, but he was actually diagnosed with, they diagnosed him some pills for his mental health not too long before he actually committed this. So that just goes to show you it's a lot we need to evaluate about ourselves in this country, but definitely our gun laws is one of them. And another thing about that's just been troubling me about it, of course, the shots at black people, no matter what. We won't even end this, bro. It was a Jason Aldean concert. This ain't had nothing to do with us. People are still talking about, I saw a couple tweets that were like, yeah, we just had this deadly shooting, but players are still kneeling. It's disrespectful. Like, that's why we're kneeling. That's why we're sitting for the national anthem. Leave black people out of this. Leave black people out of it. And if you're going to talk about black people, let's talk about how that wasn't the Vegas. Yes, it was traumatic, and I'll never downplay that. People died. Shit's real. However, it's not the deadliest shooting, because if you truly want to accumulate the total number of black bodies that have been taken by gun violence and shooting, yeah, no, Vegas is not the deadliest shooting in history. Because if you're not counting the black bodies and the black lives that have been lost to gun violence by a white person, a white terrorist, a victim, our people being victims of white terrorism, then you're not really accumulating those numbers correctly, bro. Like, your numbers are lying. So, but moving on to something that's a little more positive. Fat Joe and Pitbull are literally out here doing more with Puerto Rico than 45. Yeah, he's another one. I won't say his name or get him no hashtag love off of me. 45, the Cheeto, the dump, whatever you want to call him. Fat Joe and Pitbull are out here doing more than he is. Those wonderful men who stay repping for their Boricuas and all that sent 5 planes, and they're sending 5 more, if I'm not mistaken, from the CNN interview that Fat Joe did. But he said they have about 2 million pounds of just supplies and food and just support that they're sending to really truly help people. While you got 45 out there throwing supplies, throwing paper towels in a crowd like it's a football game, and he giving out free t-shirts. I mean, I'm over it. Get it out of here. Just throw it away. I don't want it. But just again, keep rolling with some positive news. Common and Angela Rye? Oh, I love it. Oh, you cannot go wrong when you have a woke ass, sexy ass black couple. Yes. Like, can you just imagine the things that they build on when they're just sitting there eating their vegan? I don't know if he's vegan, but in my mind, Common's a vegan. Eating his vegan meal and just like building with her and appealing to that sapiosexual side of it all. Oh, I love it. I love it. I can see them having the wokest wedding ever. Like, could you imagine their vows? Maybe I'm moving too fast. But yes, hot couple of the week. I love it. Speaking of another couple, Gabrielle Union revealed that her and Dwayne Wade have been battling infertility issues. She admitted to having 8 or 9 miscarriages, and for one, I just commend her for coming out with that. She wrote it in her book that'll be coming out later this month. It's called We're Going to Need More Wine. And from everything that I read in that People article, sis is really spilling the tea. So yes, get the wine glass, get that book, and sit on the couch, girl, and prop up and read, because she is clearly being super transparent. And I love it. That requires so much strength and courage to admit something like that. But yeah, she said she had about 8 or 9 miscarriages, and she has been going in and out of the in vitro fertility treatments. If you're familiar with those at all, they're super stressful on a woman's physical body. So for her to do that and then, be successful and get pregnant, and then to lose them and lose the children and miscarriages, I mean, it's heartbreaking, but I commend her again for speaking out on it. It's something that a lot of women, especially black women, deal with. I know the joke is, black women always pregnant and bare feet and baby mama this and baby mama that. But there are some women who would love to be a mother and give birth, and they're unable to. So for her to be able to speak out in such a way that is so transparent, to say, hey, this happens to me too, it's amazing. Like I said, I truly commend her for it. And it made me realize we have to stop being so insensitive asking women questions like, when y'all gonna have a baby, or what you waiting for? I've heard her be like, I've heard that question posed to her in interviews, and it's insensitive as hell. Us not knowing that she's literally been trying and battling it, and we're just being, we as a society, we as a society are just kind of being so insensitive to that. So I hope that we learn from this. Like, damn, yo, like, we gotta chill with that. And not just Gabrielle Union, but your sisters, your older cousin who's still single. Yes, leave her the fuck alone. Let sis live her life. Because you never know. Maybe sis is trying and she can't. So just show some compassion. You know? Moving right along, I want to jump right into Black Magic for the week and shout out these beautiful queens who are doing some amazing things. Shouting out for Fanny's Army. Okay. Hold on, let me make sure I get their names right. Okay, Girl Trek. They're a nonprofit dedicated to promoting the health and well-being of Black women and girls. They're gearing up to celebrate the life of civil rights activist and the beloved ancestor, Queen Fannie Lou Hamer, on Friday, which will be Queen Hamer's 100th anniversary of her birth. So they're going to do a walk in. From the last time I looked up some research on it, they have more than 300 walks registered for this Friday, from New Orleans to Mississippi to Harlem to Denver. Like, they really out here moving and getting numbers to honor the ancestor as she should be honored. Um, you know, Queen Fanny want a joke out here. Righteous freedom fighter who literally sacrificed her body for us. She was beaten down trying to vote and trying to organize voters back in the day. I don't know if a lot of people know, but she had a forced hysterectomy when she was going in for a routine treatment. Like, they really did that to her, as brutal as it sounds. She literally put her body on the line for us. And unfortunately, she passed prematurely of heart disease and cancer. But the sacrifices she made during her life, I think it's so dope that these queens are honoring her and doing this walk in her honor. I definitely, they definitely have my support. And if y'all can shout them out, hashtag Girl Trek. So that's girl and then Trek, like Star Trek, TREK. They are an official nonprofit, so definitely show them some love. The co-founder, Vanessa Garrison, is doing her thing. I love the enthusiasm behind it all, and it's just super dope. This weekend, must watch TV. Y'all, I love BlackIsh. Okay, for one, I love Tracy Ellis Ross because, hello, Joan, girlfriends. Like, me and her, we got history, okay? And not only that, but the show is just so dope. It's such a great representation of the modern Black family in a way that is empowering. Rainbow, albeit the name is ridiculous, and I love how they make her so like hippie and free spirit, and I love it. Her name is literally Rainbow. Like, it's so funny. Her brother is always talking about meditating and all that. Like, it's satirical, but it's good. It's good TV. But you have, her as a doctor. You have Anthony Anderson's character Andre, or Dre, being a successful working for a successful marketing agency. And it's just dope. The kids are super independent and all their own free spirits. And Diane is my favorite. She's so feisty. I love seeing a young Black dark-skinned girl on TV who isn't afraid to be sassy, but also smart, and not in a way that's like over sexualized, or like, oh, she's trying to be too grown or be something she's not. Like, that's just a little girl with some sass to her. And I love it. I love the show. They came back for their season premiere on Tuesday, and it was so dope. They did a Juneteenth episode and had none other than the legendary Roots on there doing like a Black ass version of Schoolhouse Rock. Like it was like to the beat of like I'm Just a Bill, but it was like talking about like why we celebrate Juneteenth and why we don't celebrate 4th of July. Fuck out of here. I love it. I want y'all to just get into this little clip. It's so dope.
a slave. Yes, I'm only a slave. They'll place my body in an unmarked grave. In these Confederate days, it's kinda hard to lift every voice singing while worrying about how low the sweet chariots are swinging. I could swing from a tree, but hey, oh, I hope and pray they don't kill me today. I am still just a slave.
If the Emancipation Proclamation was passed in 1863, why weren't you free until 1865?
Well, it took 2 years for the Civil War to end.
Oh, so you were free when the war ended.
Not for 2 more months because Texas landowners wanted another harvest.
That's not cool.
None of it was cool. But an army ship arrived on June 19th, 1865 and announced we were free. That's why we celebrate Juneteenth.
It's so dope. I really wish y'all could see the visuals. Actually, y'all can. I'll include a link in the info. You know I got y'all. We got y'all. Shout out Insecure. I miss my show. And then the other must-watch TV, if you have Netflix, even if you don't, use your homeboy's password, log in, and you have to watch the Def Comedy Jam 25th anniversary special that they have. When I tell you every heavy hitter in comedy is up there with the greats like Martin. Martin's up there. You got Uncle Dave. Yes, Uncle Dave Chappelle, that is. You have Deion Cole. You have D.L. Hughley. You have, I don't even like Steve Harvey, but whatever. Steve Harvey. You have Cedric the Entertainer, but then you also have like Tiffany Haddish. You have Adele Givens, which shout out to Adele Givens. I met her at her show in D.C. Sis showed me mad love. Actually, copped some Conscious Kingdom. Shout out to her. She's so dope. And she's still such a fucking lady. Like, y'all gotta watch it. I was laughing the entire time. And it just felt good to see our people presented in a way that is so, like, they did it right. They actually did it right. It wasn't like that VH1 hip hop honors debacle where they tried to honor the 90s and they had Martin. How you doing a tribute to Martin with no Shanae? It was just a mess. But that Def Comedy Jam 25th anniversary special was done right. The cinematography of it, everyone looked great. The way it was pieced together, the jokes flowed, nothing felt forced. Everything was so original, and it just took you back to a time where it was just, it was us. It was unapologetically black. It was cursing. It was brutal, raw comedy language, and just seeing how the comics have evolved. Like, I remember sneaking to watch them, and now I'm looking and I'm like, dang, that's crazy. Like, they millionaires now. When I know damn well they were up there. They ain't have all that money when they started on Def Comedy Jam, but to see like, hey, this is something we started for our people that was true to our culture, and it actually was a come up for us. So if you have not seen BlackIsh, definitely check that out. And if you have not checked out that Def Comedy Jam, definitely check it out. And we'll take a break on that note. This week's episode is sponsored by Intimate Love Skincare. They are a natural skincare product line offering bath salts, bath scrubs, and all of your natural skincare needs. You can find them online at the letter N, the number 2, me.bigcartel.com. Hey, also make sure that you are following us online at Conscious Kingdom on Facebook and Instagram, and shop our site online as well, shopconsciouskingdom.com. Again, that is shopconsciouskingdom.com. And welcome back. We are going to dive right in to getting right into this reading. So if you haven't already, get you a glass of wine, get comfortable. I'm kidding. Let's get started. So I'm going to skip over some of this introduction because Charlamagne is just talking about his family and how one of his cousins beat him up. So we're going to skip over that and start right into the middle of the introduction. Okay. Whether on the radio, on my podcast, or on TV, I'm always going to be honest. honest about myself, honest about my opinions, honest with whomever I'm talking to. That commitment to honesty was one of the main motivations to write this book. I've lived a great life thus far and enjoyed every step of the process, the highs and the lows. I don't like to label those experiences good or bad because they're all a part of one lifelong process. I've learned something from each and every one of them. I've been a bully and been bullied. I've been a drug dealer, a so-called thug, a so-called nerd. I've been to jail a few times. I've come within inches, on more than one occasion, of fulfilling my father's prediction for Darnell and all the other knuckleheads in our town, broke under a tree, dead in the ground, or rotting in jail. But despite all that, to quote the great Pastor Young, aka the rapper Jeezy, here I stand, a grown-ass man. Yes, that little boy on the dirt roads in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, is a grown-ass man now and has managed to realize all the dreams I had for myself. My goal for this book is to pass along the valuable principles I've absorbed through living what I feel has been an eventful life. Some of the principles I've developed on my own. Others have been passed down to me by the wise elders I've been fortunate to meet. Despite having a big ass mouth, I pride myself on having big ears too. I'm a great listener. Regardless of their origin, I'm hopeful no matter what your background or situation, you'll find value in all of these. Bullet point 1. Success isn't determined by the size of the town you're in. Scratch that. Success isn't determined by the size of the town you're from or what sort of home you grew up in. When I first started doing radio in NYC, people tried to make me ashamed of coming from a place where you pull over when you see roadkill. Pro tip. If it's cold, you leave it there. If it's warm, it's dinner. But even if Moncks Corner was a small town, it had a magic in the air. A magic that I was able to harness and motivate myself with. There's something special wherever you come from, too. Find it and use it to help it propel you towards your pursuit of greatness. Pause. I love where I'm from. Charles City probably got a population of like 1,500, but I promise you, it ain't nothing like it in the world, and it is exactly why I am who I am today. All right, I'll keep pushing. In order to change your life for the better, first you must change your lifestyle, which can't happen unless you change the people around you. My family didn't have much, but I still got off to a good start in life. Wearing glasses and a fanny pack, reading Judy Blume books, and hanging out with nerdy white kids. Then I made the mistake of ditching all that for my cool cousins who were thugging. I had one foot under that tree my father always told me about, one foot in jail, and let's call it my dick, aka my third leg, in the grave. Thankfully, I woke up and realized I had to cut all the losers loose, even the blood relatives, if I was ever going to reach my potential. I hope this section will help you see that no one is a victim of circumstances in life. No matter how or where you were raised, you can make the choice to live a different way. Often, the most valuable advice you can give someone is fuck your dreams. Sounds like pretty depressing advice, but it comes with a qualifier. Fuck your dreams when they aren't actually yours. For young African Americans, relatable images of success are often limited to sports and entertainment. Too many times, the dreams you think are yours are actually someone else's. You're only chasing them because you've seen them working for others. I should know. I wanted to be a rapper because that's what I saw young black men who were successful do. Thankfully, someone who could see I didn't have the skill set to be an MC had the courage to tell me, fuck your dreams of being a rapper. It turned out to be the best piece of career advice I ever received. This is why I often say, if you don't have anything nice to say to anyone, say it anyway. As someone who has been fired countless times, I can promise you there are no losses in life, only lessons. From getting let go from Taco Bell, by my own sister no less, to getting canned from Wendy Williams' show to every single time I've been fired. A short time later, I've always landed in a better position. As long as you don't compromise who you are, no matter how many pink slips you get, there's always going to be something better out there for you. Learn how to trust what I call divine misdirection. When you're starting off in your chosen field, just focus on putting the weed in the bag. If you don't know classic hip-hop cinema, I'll explain that quote in a greater detail later. For now, just know it speaks to the importance of embracing the process instead of what may seem to be the results. Too many people, especially millennials, lack the vision to recognize opportunity when there's not a paycheck attached to it. Always live your truth. When you live your truth, can't nobody try to use that truth against you. For instance, do I look like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Of course I do. By embracing my egg-shaped dome, I've taken all the ammunition away from people who call me the fifth Ninja Turtle or a burnt Ninja Turtle. By laughing at those comments instead of getting uptight, I've replaced a perceived weakness with power. You might not look like a Ninja Turtle unless your name is Neo yourself, but chances are there's something you're uptight or embarrassed about that you could actually turn into a positive by just embracing the truth about yourself. Give people the credit they deserve for being stupid, starting with yourself. I walk through life assuming that I've got a lot to learn, and I happily soak up any knowledge that comes my way. Too many people take the opposite approach and decide they've got it all figured out by the time they're 25. That's a mindset that is guaranteed to block your blessings. You must stay open to new ideas, to new kinds of people to work with, to new mentors who can coach you. Otherwise, you're always going to be stuck in place. Finally, embrace the concept that you are privileged. I believe in the power and privilege of God. And God created me exactly how He wanted me to be and who He wanted me to be. I believe I'm just as privileged, if not more, as any white person out there. I have to believe that. Otherwise, I'd never have transcended the circumstances I was born into. No matter what your circumstance in life, you must adopt the same attitude. You must believe strongly that you got Latino privilege, Asian privilege, tall guy privilege, smart girl privilege, whatever your particular situation may be. And then you got to have complete faith in your privilege. This book is only for those who believe they can create their own opportunity. Because if you don't believe in your ability to create breaks for yourself, then this book can't do anything for you. In fact, just put it down now. Then find your receipt and return it before you accidentally get some Polynesian sauce from your number one at Chick-fil-A on one of the pages and you can't get your money back. That's really in the book, y'all. I didn't make that up. I need to share these principles in a book because I know just how much power the written word holds. Remember, I'm the son of an English teacher. From an early age, my mother kept a book in my face. Those books, combined with her love, are what nourished my imagination and inspired me to transcend my circumstances. Books are what provided me with a sense of escape when the tension between my parents made our home feel suffocating. Books helped give me the confidence to dream bigger than I was supposed to as a poor black boy growing up in the rural South. Books are where I got the name Charlamagne, even if I did misspell it. My life is a living testament to the transformative power of books. Pause. That's exactly why I started this podcast, because books did the exact same thing for me. My parents were crazy. Domestic violence, drinking, partying, whatever. Life was real, but I would dive into books and just go into my own world, and I still do that to this day. And I hope I can take y'all with me, because that's peace. All right, I'll keep pushing. All right, so we'll dive into the first chapter, or the first principle. It's not the size of the pond, but the hustle in the fish. Geographical location doesn't determine what kind of success you will have, but your psychological position always will. How are you going to make waves in a bigger pond when you haven't even learned how to cause a ripple in the pond you're in? When you stop complaining about where you are physically and start focusing on where you are mentally, that's when you will start to transcend your circumstances. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the oldest cities in the nation. For a long time, it was also one of the richest, thanks to being the center of trade for several industries, including deerskin, indigo, cotton, rice, and most lucratively, African slaves. Sullivan's Island, which lies in Charleston's harbor on the Atlantic Ocean, is where hundreds of thousands of African men, women, and children were brought to this country in chains during the Middle Passage. If you're black, there is an almost 50% chance one of your ancestors landed at Sullivan's Island. Despite having so much historical significance, you won't find any Statue of Liberty sized monument commemorating what scholars call the Ellis Island of slavery. Nope. All you will find is a couple of plaques and a memorial bench Toni Morrison arranged to have built overlooking the ocean. Chances are you've never heard anything about it. This is why, as Public Enemy once rapped, history shouldn't be a mystery. Our story's real history, not his story. Specifically, Sullivan's Island is where most of the Bakongo, Umbundu, Wolof, Mindi, and Malinke peoples of West Africa were brought to America. Pause. Again, I told y'all I'm from Shaw City, so if I mispronounce something, just help me. You know what I said what I said. You know what I meant, right? Okay, cool. I'll keep pushing. It's probably safe to say I'm descended from one of them. I went to a family reunion a few years back and heard some relatives say that the McKelveys, that's my father's last name, have Irish ancestors. But it's more likely we just had Irish owners. I did some research when I started working on this book and found that there had been a lot of slave owners in the area with my last name. If you look at some of the old records, you'll find actual slave receipts like this one from 1805. McKelvey David to Ebenezer Hopkins, bill of sale for a slave named Ben, a barber by trade. Maybe Ben the barber was one of my ancestors. Probably the most famous former slave to live in Charleston was Denmark VC. Praises to the ancestor, Denmark! Denmark was born on St. Thomas in the Caribbean in 1767 and ended up being sold to a ship captain who bought him to Charleston. After some time in the city, he won $2,500 in a lottery and was able to buy his freedom. He stayed in Charleston and co-founded the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in an effort to aid the slaves in the area. After doing all he could for the slaves through his church, Denmark decided that working with local white leaders wasn't getting him anywhere. So in 1822, he started secretly organizing a slave revolt in Charleston and the surrounding area. The plan was that on an assigned date, all the slaves in the area would rise up, overwhelm their masters, and then march to the port in Charleston. From there, they'd sail to freedom in Haiti, which had recently won its independence from France. The plan might have worked, except that Denmark and his fellow leaders got dimed out by a local slave. Now that's snitching. And everyone was arrested before the revolt could happen. After a short trial, Denmark and 30 other slaves were hanged. I've always found Denmark incredibly inspirational because he didn't have to help the other slaves around Charleston. He not only literally won the lottery, but he was also a skilled carpenter and could read, which was a rarity back then. It had to be tempting to say, "Peace, Charleston," and carve out a nice life for himself up north. But he didn't go that route. He was committed to his community and ultimately gave his life trying to liberate it. Unfortunately, if the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston sounds familiar to you, it's probably not because of Denmark BC. No, the church Denmark helped found it over 200 years ago to help slaves is also where the terrorist Dylan Roof killed 9 innocent black folk back in 2015. So clearly, the more things change, the more they stay the same in Charleston. This is why we need to celebrate heroes like Denmark Vesey whenever we get the chance, instead of letting them become a footnote to history. I wouldn't even feel right putting my name on this book if I didn't tell his story. Another thing you should know about Charleston is that it's a center of Geechee culture. Geechees, or Gullahs, as they're also called, are the descendants of slaves who lived along the Atlantic coast in the low country regions of South Carolina and Georgia. Even though they've been in America for hundreds of years, Geechees still have a very close connection to African cultures and languages. I've met Geechees who speak a dialect that's closer to African languages than English. Clarence Thomas comes from a family like that and claims one of the reasons he never talks in the Supreme Court is because he grew up ashamed of his heavy Geechee accent. Other kids would make so much fun of him that he became more comfortable listening to them talking. Or at least that's his story. Chris Rock, Michelle Obama, and Trick Daddy all have Geechee roots as well. Even if you've never heard of Geechee before this book, you've probably heard some Geechee phrases like Gruber or Peanut and come by, which means come by here. Growing up in Charleston, I wasn't aware of all that history yet. I do remember going on a field trip to the Charleston Museum, which is actually the oldest museum in the country, but only because I pushed an emergency door on purpose and set off a fire alarm. Yes, even as a little kid, I was always a bit of an instigator. Our family, including my older sister Teresa and my younger brother Julian, lived in a trailer park in North Charleston. The trailers were packed tight together. If you stepped into your backyard, you were also stepping into someone's front yard. This sounds like where I'm from, y'all. This sounds like Charles City. I'm so serious. Alright. Transcend your circumstances. It ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. Quote from Eric B. and Rakim. I know you got soul. When the guy Rakim first spit those legendary bars, most people assumed he was speaking on physical locations. It didn't matter if you were from the Bronx or Brooklyn, the suburbs, or the streets. If you were down with hip-hop, then in Rakim's eyes, you were good. There's tremendous value in that message. Yet, as I grew to appreciate the song over the years, I realized there were layers to Rakim's lyrics. He wasn't only speaking about location on a map, but a state of mind too. In other words, the place where you were born or the circumstances you were born into don't have to define you. You can be born in a Moncks Corner or a Charles City, but have a New York City mindset. You can grow up in a housing project in Chicago or a trailer park in Louisiana and still have the mentality of someone who was raised in LA. I'm speaking here to all the people, especially young ones who feel trapped by their circumstances, who feel they must move to an Atlanta, a New York, or a Los Angeles in order to prosper. Ultimately, yeah, you might have to make that move. I did. But before you do, you must focus on where your mentality is, where you're at. Too many people who grow up in a proverbial small pond fall into the trap of believing that they'll never achieve success where they're at. As a result, they end up settling. What's it matter that I dropped out of high school? There ain't no good jobs around here anyway, they'll rationalize. So what, I got a baby before I got a degree, they'll say. It's not like my mother went to college either. Pause. That is a huge part of our culture. Just completing and repeating the cycles of our families and what we've seen our parents do, and kind of just limiting ourselves as if we're not worthy enough to live the life that we imagine. Like we're just not worthy of it. Like we see other people doing it and it's just something we can't obtain. Nah, dead that. Dead that. If you can think it, you can create it, you can manifest it. Like, it's yours for the taking. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you've been through, none of that. You are magical enough to create the life that you desire. Alright, I'll keep pushing. I understand how easy it can be to sink into that mindset. I doubt most people reading this book grew up in a town where the prospects of making it seemed any more daunting. That feeling of hopelessness, of opportunity always being outside of your grasp, can be depressing. I saw it take tolls on a lot of people, including many of my cousins and friends. When my father warned me not to fall into the trap of spending the rest of your life sitting drunk under a tree, he wasn't using it as a metaphor. I would literally see my cousins, guys who as teenagers dressed fly, had game with the ladies, and excelled in sports, wasting away their days sitting under a tree for shade, sipping on cheap liquor and talking about the good old days. Except they weren't even out of their 20s yet, and their dreams were already dead. A guy drinking under a tree in Monk's Corner could just as easily be someone smoking a blunt on a park bench in the Bronx or drinking their lunch in a bar in Houston. A person I describe as under a tree represents anyone who's decided it'll never happen for them, so why even bother trying? Personally, I never ever in my life thought that my journey was going to end in Monk's Corner. I might have been raised in a small pond, but I was convinced that my hustle and determination were going to make me a fish that was going to swim on the wider waters. Even when I was really fucking up, I always believed that there was something greater out there for me. And how did I know that? How was I sure of it? Because all the incredible books I was reading and inspirational music I was listening to told me so. My mother encouraged me to read books about people I didn't seem to have anything in common with. Not that there are a ton of books about little black boys growing up in the South anyway that weren't about slaves. She wanted books to help introduce me to worlds that might otherwise seem foreign. As a result, I read a lot of Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary. To this day, I still think about how if Ramona Quimby had grown up in this era, they would have loaded her up on Ritalin and killed all her creativity and imagination. My mother might have had me reading books about little white girls, but my father was giving me a super black reading list. From an early age, he'd been exposing me to books like The Autobiography of Malcolm X or Message to the Black Man in America by Elijah Muhammad. At first, I wasn't interested, but as I got a little older, a force came into my life that made me want to pick up all those books my father had been recommending. That made me believe that instead of being a fish stuck in a small pond, I was actually a god and controlling my universe. That force was hip hop. A lot of folks in the media at the time were calling hip hop a cancer, a negative influence on black youth. They said it promoted violence and it was misogynistic. They may have been right, but it was having a different influence on me. The truth was that hip hop wasn't just helping me come up with corny nicknames for places around Monk's Corner. It was sparking my interest in history, definitely more than it was being sparked in school. When I heard Public Enemy say, Farrakhan's a prophet and I think you ought to listen to, or Biggie say that he was deep like the mind of Farrakhan, the dots began to connect. The messages of black consciousness my father had been pushing on me started to feel more relevant. Thanks to hip hop, I started devouring books off my father's reading list, books like Message to the Black Man in America, which exposed systematic racism, and From Niggas to Gods, which we're actually gonna read. I'm so excited. Which expanded on the 5% teachings I've heard referenced in many songs. And the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene's classic that was quoted by so many rappers, also helped me become more strategic in my thinking. Quote, people don't realize how a man's whole life can be changed by one book. Embrace your core. While it's important to rise above your roots and transcend your circumstances, it is also key that no matter where life takes you, you never get detached from those roots. You can go from swimming in the smallest pond to controlling the oceans like Poseidon, but if you lose touch with your core, you're going to constantly find yourself adrift. Make no mistake about it, Monk's Corner is my core. For instance, I'm having a great run in this media game, but there are times when I become unsure of myself, when I feel like my energy is blocked and I'm stuck in a rut. Every one of us feels this from time to time. How you handle these feelings will set you apart. When I'm stuck, I reconnect with my core. That means getting on a plane to Charleston and heading straight to Monk's Corner. I will literally drive to my mom's house and go sleep in my old bedroom. But I'm not done. After recharging at my mother's house, I drive to my late great grandmother's house, Rosalie Ford's house. God bless the dead. Nobody lives there anymore, but I'll sit on her porch and soak up all of that house's great energy. I'll meditate and pray, and soon I feel like I'm talking to my grandmother again. After we talk, I open up the front door and go sit inside her empty house. If you've ever entered an empty house, you know you're greeted by tremendous energy the moment you step across the threshold. It freaks some people out, but I embrace it. I love to revisit all my beautiful memories and connect with that kid who is so full of dreams. It never fails to get me back on point. When the roots are deep, there is no reason to fear the wind. It doesn't matter whether you're in media, law, sales, or education. Between Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or whatever else comes next, all of our minds are cluttered these days. All of us feel overwhelmed by the pace of life, knocked off balance by the never ending stream of information we read, watch, and listen to every day. In order to get your equilibrium right, you must return to your core. If you can physically still go back, jump in the car or on a plane and get there ASAP. Celebrate that the street you might live on now is nicer, but also embrace that dirt road you grew up on. Appreciate that all your power emanates from that dirt and that you wouldn't have it any other way. You'll probably shed a few tears, but they'll be powerful, not painful. Whether you grew up in a trailer in a dusty southern town, a housing project in Queens, or even a mansion in LA, understand that the dreams you had lying in your old bed or sitting on your old stoop are what got you where you are today. And that losing touch with them is the only thing that can stop you from transcending your circumstances. All right, and that's where we're going to put a bookmark in. For that, I'm so excited. We have gotten through our first principle together, and I'm really excited about everything that he's diving into. Charlamagne has a very interesting way of putting it, but I really like the points that he's bringing up. The importance of being a child and having books as an outlet. I've been a lover of reading since I started reading, and even when I was like 11, 12 years old, I was reading like those Zane books. I know, very inappropriate, right? But just seeing black people on the cover of the books and then reading about these people living these extravagant lifestyles and traveling the world and buying these expensive cars and just kind of like living a life that I've never even seen at that age. I didn't know anyone who did the things they did or even traveled to the places or even knew where those places were that they were going. So he's absolutely right. Books do open your mind and expand it. And I'm so excited for everything that we're going to dive in on this journey with this podcast. Like I said, we are going to read From Niggas to God. We probably will read The Message to Black Man. We're going to read the Four Agreements. We're going to read about chakras and alignment and the cosmos and numerology and astrology and all of those things, because I'm not here to try to convert anybody or be a leader, a preacher, a pastor, none of that. Listen, I'm getting myself together just like you. Like I said, this is about me becoming better to help us to become better so we can be better people. So my goal is that we just feed each other knowledge so that we take those bits and pieces that we get from reading and discussing to shape our mentalities to ultimately help us to evolve. Again, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you will join again next week. To be honest, I don't even know if anybody's going to listen, but this is a dream of mine, and like the book says, I am creating my own opportunity here. So I hope that y'all come with me. I really do. You can catch this podcast each week on YouTube as well as our SoundCloud and on our website. So on SoundCloud and YouTube, just search Conscious Kingdom and you'll be able to find us. Everything is at Conscious Kingdom, as well as Instagram and Facebook. It's just at Conscious Kingdom. and our website, where you can find the podcast, our blog, as well as shop a bit, because we always have new styles each week, from accessories to home decor, as well as clothing for men, women, and children. You can shop at our website, which is shopconsciouskingdom.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I want to just wrap up with the meme of the week. And I actually posted this on our Instagram, but it says, that podcast, launch it. That blog, start it. That book, write it. That idea, flesh it out. That app, develop it. That gift, put it to use. And that's what I'm doing here. So I hope that in us taking this journey together, that you are inspired as well. And hopefully, you do create the opportunity that you want to see. I love you. Thanks for listening. Peace.
You know what I'm saying? And I realize that if you scared of your own people, then you scared of yourself. So I'm encouraging everybody to drive on down, get on the bus, take the train or whatever. Get on down to Watts. Peace to Glasses, Malone and J-Rock. Yeah, you know.